of oceans. Now, yesterday we have discussed a bit of salinity. We have learned what is the thermohaline circulation, but today we are going to do it in detail. Having said that, it is also important to know that how you analyze a salinity. That means that salinity definition should be known to you. For example, if I describe salinity, it should be defined in a way and set a benchmark. जैसे 35 is a salinity of the oceans. That is an average salinity that I can take for now. And if the salinity is less than 35, then I can say the water is less saline. And if it is more, I can say the water is more saline. Right? Clear, everyone? Online students, good evening, everyone. Okay. Now, considering this factor, the salinity कैसे डिस्क्राइब करेंगे आप एवरेज वैल्यू लेंगे कि कितना क्या salinity होता है डिफरेंट एरियाज का. As we know, it cannot be same everywhere, right? Voice is not coming. What is happening? Is it cracking? Coming but echo. Just give me a minute. Cracking. I think there's some echo. Echo in the voice. Just figuring it out. Give me a minute. Good evening, Ashu. Is it fine now? Please reply fast. Good. Okay. So we have talked about salinity a lot of times, but the point is now we have to talk in terms. First of all, define what is should be the salinity of the water bodies. If I talk about Atlantic Ocean, how should be the salinity of this ocean? It is generally on the higher side than the Pacific Ocean. Then there should be some reason involved for that, right? There should be some reason involved for that. So for me, the salinity is how much amount of salt is present in 1000 grams of water. If I have to define salinity, it is simply, simple words में 35 grams of salt, of dissolved salts in 1000 grams of water. Now, what kind of salts I am taking here? That should also be defined. It is important for prelims. It should be NaCl, KCl, magnesium bromide, right? All of this. And out of this, 77% is taken by NaCl. That means the concentration of sodium chloride is highest in the water. Any amount of water you are taking, always you will find the NaCl is highest in the concentration. And it is 77.8%. Right? So, can I say that if average salinity of ocean I am taking, then it should be 35. Below this is less and more than this is more. Right? That is on the higher side. Okay. Now, it is not possible that salinity हर जगह same हो. क्यों? What is the reason for salinity is not being same everywhere? Because we are not having an insolation same everywhere. Salinity क्यों नहीं same हो सकती हर जगह? Because insolation नहीं है same. We are not having the equal amount of evaporation happening at the different places. Even if evaporation is happening, that thing is compensated by the precipitation, right? So we have to consider all the factors. Although we take different factors in silos at first place, पहले हम कैसे देखेंगे कि what are the factors which are affecting the salinity? Evaporation is affecting, precipitation is affecting, river influx is affecting, but then we have to see that how much is the weightage of each one of these factors. For example, if I talk about equator, it is supposed to be highly saline. The waters are supposed to be highly saline in nature, but there are different factors which are not letting the water bodies which are present in the at the equator to be highly saline. We'll discuss about that why the case is so. But the point is, right now we have to understand why the salinity is not distributed equally everywhere. Now, distribution of the salinity is not equal because, as I said, your insolation is not coming in the right, it's not coming in an equal manner at every latitude. What we call it as? We call it as latitudinal variation, where we are having different insolation, and because of the different insolation, we are having a different form of other phenomena which are happening. That is your precipitation, your evaporation, and other factors, ice formation, melting of ice. All of these factors combined together will determine the salinity of the water body. Okay. Now, apart from that, as I told you that this is a latitudinal variation. So we have to discuss much more on the latitudinal variation, how it actually affects the whole scenario. Look at the board. Now this is your equator. It has to be little the downside. This is your equator, right? And this is your tropical regions. This is your tropical region. Now, equator or tropical region, which is more on the higher side in terms of salinity, where I would find more of salinity in the water bodies in the tropical regions or at the equator. Most of you will say that at the equator. Reason because insolation is more, right? But the point here is there are other factors also which are involved, such as the precipitation. Everyone knows that at 4 p.m., or generally not exactly at 4 p.m. in the evening, there is a precipitation happening at the equator. And when this is happening, obviously, we will have less of salinity because your rainfall which is happening is reducing the level of salinity. पर इससे पहले हमें क्या देखना होगा? What is actually increasing the salinity? Evaporation. Even if evaporation is taking place here, evaporation is taking place at the equator also, evaporation is taking place at the tropical regions also, and in fact in subtropical regions also. But the point here is right now I'm just taking tropical regions and equator for now. Okay. Now, when the insolation is happening at both the when the insolation is coming at both the places, then obviously evaporation will take place. Evaporation is what? Simply your water vapors will be formed, and since the water vapor is formed, what will be left? What is the residue after that? क्या residue होगा? Residue will be your salts. आपका salts रह जाएगा वहां पे, right? Your salts will remain, and salts will increase the level of salinity in the water body, right? But the point here at equator is that equator is also receiving the abundance amount of precipitation also. And since they are receiving the precipitation, then the level of salinity is reducing at this place. But if I talk about the tropical regions, or maybe subtropical regions. There the salinity is not what? It is not that reduced. Reason being, because although evaporation is there, but precipitation is also less. So precipitation is not compensating, it's not reducing the salinity of the area. Everybody clear? Subtropical regions पे क्या होता है? You having the deserts over there, right? Arabian desert, Sahara desert, all of them are present in the subtropical belts, right? Subtropical regions. Now, when the subtropical regions are having this much, what will happen? The evaporation is more and precipitation is less. When evaporation is more, precipitation is less, obviously they will have more of deserts, and therefore the salinity of the bodies will be more. I discussed the case of Dead Sea. Dead Sea is having the highest amount of salinity present there. The salt concentration is highest. Why? Because first thing is it is lying in this area. Second, the influx of any fresh water, river, or any river for that matter is not there. The only source of water they are having is precipitation, right? Evaporation is taking place at that particular place in a very high amount, and since evaporation is taking place, what will happen? It will increase the salinity of that area, right? Every one of you understood this point? ये आपका प्रीलिम्स के लिए भी इंपॉर्टेंट है, सिर्फ आपका मेंस के लिए या फिर ऑप्शनल के लिए, ज्योग्राफी ऑप्शनल के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट ही नहीं, इट इज आल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर प्रीलिम्स, बिकॉज see, when you are doing the geography optional, please keep it in mind that you have to take the advantage of this thing. You have to take the advantage of being a student of geography optional, so that you can also use this advantage for yourself in prelims. जब आपके 30 क्वेश्चंस एनवायरमेंट और ज्योग्राफी से आ रहे हैं, then why are you not taking this advantage? You have to take this. और ये conceptual clarity आपको it is important to have it in a geography optional, and at the same time whenever the question will come in prelims you can easily solve this. So think like that. Okay? Yes, online students बताइए. Everyone, should I wait? Yes, someone is typing. Online student, is it clear? Good. Okay. Now moving forward. So what can I conclude from here? Can I conclude this thing that as I'm going from equator to subtropical and tropical regions, equator to tropical and subtropical regions, the salinity of the water body is increasing. Is it true? Yes. That is what you can write in the conclusion. The whole point of making you understand everything is to conclude this particular statement. Now, this particular statement holds importance for your prelims and as well as for your optional. Why prelims? Because if this statement would come, then you would be perplexed what to write, either to say yes to it or no to it. Okay, but in geography optional, in mains exam, you have to explain this statement. We should know why the things are happening, because it can come in the comment also. Comment, and then they can write equator to tropical to subtropical. The salinity of the water bodies increases from equator to subtropical and tropical regions. Explain with example. Okay, so that is the difference. All right. Now moving further, if I talk about now another example also you can write of Mediterranean Sea. If you want to write example in this, you can Write and take the example of Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean Sea are highly saline in nature. They're highly saline, although they are having some kind of influx of the water bodies here. This is the region, right? But they are highly saline areas. Reason being, because evaporation is more, lying in the tropical and subtropical regions, lying in the subtropical regions. Factor, evaporation is more. And therefore the salinity is more in this area. You can take the example of Mediterranean Sea as well. Now going further, we will come to the mid latitudes. We'll come to the mid latitudes. What is the scenario here? As you go further up, the salinity tends to decrease. Reason? Because in this area, the evaporation is less. Why? Because rays coming over here are slanting. Rays are slanting. And since rays are slanting, what would happen? The evaporation will be less and precipitation will be more. As compared to evaporation, precipitation will be more. Therefore, since the precipitation is dominating over here, there would be less of salinity. And as you further go in the polar regions, the salinity will further decrease. It would further decrease. Reason? Because in the summertime, the ice will melt. When ice will melt over here, this fresh water will get mixed with the oceans. And since they are getting mixed with the ocean, it will further reduce the salinity of the area. And second thing, definitely minimal evaporation at the polar region, precipitation in the form of snow, right? So all of this factor taking all together, we can say that the polar regions are having very less salinity values. Okay, जब हम इक्वेटर पे देखेंगे तो इक्वेटर पे the values will be more as compared to the polar regions, obviously. But as we go further in the tropical, subtropical regions, it increases. Again, it decreases at the mid latitude, and again, it decreases further in the polar region. All right, everybody clear with this? Can we write the tropical and subtropical salinity values? Then how it is determining the salinity value in these regions? Okay, let's write. Equatorial regions का लिखिए 0 to 10 degree latitude. 0 to 10 degree latitude, write down. Equator पे लिखिए 34 to 35 ppt, parts per thousand. लिखिए. It is 34 to 35 ppt at the equator. Then write down at tropical and subtropical regions. लिखिए 36 to 37. The value is 36 to 37 ppt. Next, write down mid latitudes 34 to 36 ppt. Mid latitudes में लिखिए 34 to 36 ppt. And further going towards pole, you will have 32 ppt. You will have 32 ppt. Please make sure you are only talking about the surface areas over here. आप इसमें डेप्थ की बात नहीं कर रहे. You're not talking about the depth over here. You're not talking about the depth of the oceans over here. There you will have the different scenario altogether. अभी हम सिर्फ surface layer का salinity check कर रहे हैं. All right? Now we have to come towards the regional variations in the salinity. When I talk about the regional variations in the salinity, I might take different regions, water bodies of the areas, right? For example, I might take Red Sea, Persian Gulf, right? then Mediterranean Sea, and before that I have to take Atlantic Ocean and Pacific Ocean. Why? Because this is a major question of lot of students, ma'am. Where are we going to have more salinity? Either in the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean. And also, it is important to note the differences. That if this is the case, then what is the difference of one having higher value? All right. So let's discuss this. Now, in the Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean, the things are different. What is the temperature? The average temperature in the Pacific Ocean, where it is lying? It is lying here. If I talk about summer and winters, then the scenarios are going to be different altogether, right? Let's talk about the temperature first. I am taking 2-3 factors, and then we will evaluate on all those factors. First, I am taking temperature. We are trying to find the difference between the salinity of Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. I am not coming to any conclusion. I'm just telling you the facts. Atlantic Ocean and Pacific Ocean salinity. Now assume that when I'm taking the salinity of the Atlantic Ocean, I have to also consider the north side of the Atlantic Ocean, north and south. Why? Because things can differ over here, right? Things can differ over here. Reason being, because at the equator, it can behave in a different way, and at the poles, obviously, it will behave in a different way. When I'm talking about the Pacific Ocean, I am also assuming both the things. I'm assuming the temperatures only here also. Okay. Now, if I talk about the southern South Atlantic Ocean, what is happening over here? There is a Gulf Stream which is arising from here, right? There is a Gulf Stream which is arising from here and going towards the polewards. Now, this Gulf Stream which is going toward polewards is a warm ocean current. You must have read it in a GS, although we are going to do the warm ocean current very soon. I mean, ocean currents as a topic, we are going to do it in detail. But right now, just assume that this Gulf Stream, even if you have not done anything related to oceanography in your GS, then also it is easily it can be understood by the people. Why? Because I'm just telling you that Gulf Stream is warm in nature. आपको बस इतना समझना है. Gulf Stream कहाँ से आया, कैसे originate हुआ, यहाँ पे इसको गल्फ स्ट्रीम ही क्यों बोलते हैं, दैट इज समथिंग विच यू विल रीड इन ओशन करंट्स. ओके, बट बस आपको कॉन्सेप्ट के लिए समझना होगा कि गल्फ स्ट्रीम वार्म ओशन करंट होता है. ओके, नाउ दिस वार्म ओशन करंट will move towards poles, that is a poleward. ठीक है, when I am talking about the cold ocean current which is coming from above, you can take it a Labrador current or any other current, for example North Atlantic current. अभी हम नॉर्थ अटलांटिक करंट लेते हैं, right? So what will happen as this Gulf Stream will go upwards, it will warm up the area. क्यों करेगा warm? Because obviously it is warm in nature and it will do what? It will warm the coastal areas of Europe, and it will make the for the passage navigable. Okay, but what about this North Atlantic current which is coming from upside, from the pole side towards equator? What it is going to be cold in nature, so it will change the factor. So can I say that currents are responsible for changing the temperature of an area? Yes, they are the important factor for changing the temperature of the area. If I talk about the equator, yes, it can bring the cold current from above towards this, and it can take the warm ocean currents towards the poles, and it will regulate the area. This is called redistribution of the heat. आप क्या कर रहे हो? Balancing कर रहे हो. You're balancing the heat across the world. Why? Because if I talk about the polar regions have no other way of getting warmed up. कोई और तरीका है? Because rays are not coming over there, ice formation is there, insolation जा नहीं रहा है, summers में winters में, तो कैसे, how it would reach, how the ice would melt, or how, apart from the climate change which is a different story altogether, that is not what I am taking. अभी हम सिर्फ किसकी बात कर रहे हैं? Warm. So warm ocean current which is going above this thing polewards, what will happen? It will reduce the it will increase the temperature of the area, and there could be the melting of the ice over there. Okay? And here in the north side it will come down. The second factor, the temperature is one. The second factor is I have to take the influx and precipitation. First, let's talk about the precipitation. How much precipitation this area is receiving. So Atlantic Ocean on an average annually receives less rainfall as compared to the Pacific Ocean. That is the data that you can also take it from Google. If you really want to have exact values, then the Google is there. But the point is, we have to understand what is the implication of not having the rainfall. It would be same, like I was explaining in the latitudinal variations. What is that? That when the evaporation is here, but the precipitation is not happening over here, definitely it would increase the salinity of the area. Okay? It would increase the salinity of the area. Why? Because precipitation is less as compared to the Pacific Ocean. Third factor, influx of rivers. How many freshwater rivers are draining into this area? Now, when I'm talking about the rivers, I have to talk about the volume of the river as well. I cannot take just very small and not so, not having so much of volume kind of a river to change anything in the ocean. I have to take substantial volumes when I'm talking about certain rivers. Okay, so in Atlantic Ocean, I'm talking about the rivers which are not so prominent over here. They're not draining much, although there are rivers which are draining, but as compared to the Pacific Ocean, I'm not having the substantial amount of rivers which are draining in this area as compared to the Pacific Ocean, where I am having a huge volume of rivers which are draining into the Pacific areas, Pacific Ocean particularly. Okay, so in all, when the precipitation is here, like influx of the water is also here, obviously the precipitation value is definitely going to decrease the value of salinity. But in Atlantic Ocean, I'm going to have the more of salinity. Is it clear? How many of you can get this? Important है, I'll also give you assignment question on this particular thing. और आपको इसी तरह से लिखना है. You have to write in this manner only. You will talk about temperature, talk about precipitation, talk about, and in fact, you have to give the examples of the rivers which are draining. Okay, along with the data. Tell me, all the students. Ishan, you joined late. What happened? Everyone, please be quick on this. Okay, no problem. But tell me. Good. Okay. Now moving further. Is it clear? Okay. All right. Now this is what you can take down in the assignment question. Later on, I'll give this. Let's move further. Let's talk about Persian Gulf and Red Sea. Persian Gulf and also do not forget this. This is an activity that you all have to do whenever you are taking any geographical location, either in India or in around the world. You have to take care. सिर्फ आप सिर्फ salinity पढ़ रहे हैं, do not just stick to that point only. Read the geographical location of that area. पूरा आप location देखेंगे. These days, Strait of Hormuz is very important, right? Strait of Hormuz is very important. It is combining what? Persian Gulf with Gulf of Oman. It is combining two water bodies, right? This is a Strait of Hormuz over here, and these days it has become extremely important. Your LPGs, LNGs, all are stuck in the Strait of Hormuz. And I've given a very elaborate video also. I've dropped the video on YouTube on the Plutus page only, where I have told that why this strait is important. 20% of the global oil supply is coming from here. India's 88% dependency is on Strait of Hormuz with respect to LPG and LNG. And we do not have the alternatives also. So this Strait of Hormuz is not very easy thing. I mean easy thing in sense that you cannot take it very lightly. When the things are stuck here, it's said that a lot of revenues get stuck of different big countries. And it is happening these days. You can see around yourself. Okay? Everyone? Okay. Now, when I'm talking about the Persian Gulf, I'm going to take two sea right now. One is Persian Gulf and another one is Red Sea. When I have to compare two water bodies, and this could be the question in the mains, in the optional examination, and this could be also important for your prelims. Now understand it very nicely. देखिए, Red Sea is a place. Obviously, you know, obviously you know that Red Sea is having the highest salinity value, right? It is nearly 41 ppt, and this is 40 ppt. I'm just not taking the value. I'm not taking the brackets. I'm taking the values only. 41 and 40. Now, although they are having the highest salinity, there could be a question that you have to tell which one of it's having more. So assuming that question, I would see the different factors. For example, Red Sea is having the high salinity, but on what grounds? Obviously, it is lying at the place where the evaporation has to be high, no doubt about it. But there is one more factor which is making the Red Sea salinity to be very, very high, and that is the drainage of the water bodies, rivers. So here, it is said that it is minimal. We do not have the drainage, we do not have the discharge of the rivers in the Red Sea. Or you can say like this, there is a minimal discharge, minimal discharge. In fact, this question came in 2024 also, where it was given in the assertion format, and one assertion statement said that there is no river draining into Red Sea, and it is a quite extreme statement. Therefore, a lot of people marked it as incorrect. But that is true because they are having a minimal discharge. Since they are having a minimal discharge, they are also located at the place where the evaporation is more, precipitation is also moderate. Definitely, this is going to have more salinity. Talking about Persian Gulf, definitely Persian Gulf also, it is also having high evaporation, precipitation is also moderate. But the point is, there are certain rivers which are discharging into this area. There are certain rivers which are discharging into the Persian Gulf. So definitely the value of the Persian Gulf, the salinity value of the Persian Gulf is going to be less as compared to the Red Sea. Although they both lie in the category of high salinity. Both lie in the category of high salinity. All right. Now let's talk about another river. Take another example. This is another diagram of the same thing. Now talk about the Black Sea. What is the salinity value of Black Sea? The Black Sea is having very less salinity value. Very less. Why? Listen to the reason. Because there are various rivers which are draining into this Black Sea. One river which is draining into them is from Ukraine, is very popular. Ukraine-Russia war is very popular topic these days. I hope that you have gone through this rivers if you have gone through Indian Express or Hindi. One river which is draining into it is Danube. Then you have the Dnieper. Then you have the Dniester. And there are other rivers also which are draining into this. Southern Bug is another. Since many rivers are draining and they are discharging, basically the right word is discharging. They are discharging into this water body. It will decrease the value of the salinity of the particular water body. All right. Why? Again, I am repeating because there are various rivers which are originating. Now, what is the history of Danube? Is it originating in Ukraine? No. It is originating in the Germany. Danube is coming from Germany. And then it's draining over here. Similarly, you have to see the history of other rivers as well. That is what I'm saying. When you're reading the geography and you're watching the world maps, do not just stick to only one thing. We have to just see Black Sea, that's it. No. You have to also see which are the countries which are surrounding Black Sea, what bordering Black Sea. This was a question in, it's a P by Q question again of UPSC. So these points you have to take care. When you're reading something, you have to also see bounding nations. You have to see the straits which are coming. For example, there are two straits over here. This is Sea of Marmara. All of this should be taken great care of. Okay, this is another example. Now, next example that I'm going to take is of Mediterranean Sea, although I had a brief discussion about that, but let's take that example again. This is a Mediterranean Sea. Can you see how enclosed it is? Can you see how enclosed it is? Although there is, here we having Atlantic Ocean. But this part of Atlantic Ocean is highly saline. 38 ppt. Why? Evaporation, moderate precipitation. But one factor is not too much of discharge of rivers. Right? So these are certain reasons for having a high salinity value of Mediterranean Sea. Okay. Just look at all of them one by one. I'm having all three here in one diagram. In one, this is Red Sea, this is Persian Gulf and Mediterranean Sea. Here you're having a Gulf of Aden. These are also Gulf. Clear everyone? Anything that you would like to ask? also look at the temporal variations. Temporal. Do we have the variation of salinity in terms of day and night also? Yes. If day on summer and winters also, yes. Or the same place. I'm not changing the place. I'm taking the same place only. If I'm taking summers and winters, obviously in the summers आप एक एग्जांपल और ले सकते हैं which is your Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. I just forgot to take that example. Very nice example. We can take the example of Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. Just look how it differs. When we take Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, your Bay of Bengal is having a very less salinity value in the months of monsoon. Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. Now this will get lot of evaporation, this area. It will be evaporated obviously because of high insolation. Next, precipitation is also going to be there, but the point is the discharge of the rivers is not going to be there. Influx of water, fresh water, is not going to be there much as compared to Bay of Bengal. Why? Because Bay of Bengal will have huge volume of rivers discharging into it. All your Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari, all will discharge in this place. Therefore, Bay of Bengal value, salinity value will be much less in the monsoons. But same thing if I take in summers, for example, in peak summers, definitely the difference would not be that much because we are talking about only evaporation. Evaporation में क्या check करेंगे? Salts कितना बच गया है पीछे से, right? At that point of time, just we are checking evaporation of that particular because monsoon has not arrived, so we have to see only the that particular parameter. So in summers, definitely the difference would not be much, but in monsoon, there would be a huge difference in both. All right. The influx of the river, discharge of the rivers is also important. So definitely, if a particular place I am taking, the summer and winters variation would be there in the salinity value of the particular place. कोई भी एक place ले लीजिए आप. Summers would be more, winters would be less. Salinity value of summers would be more, winters would be less. Depending आप area कौन सा ले रहे हैं, ठीक है? अगर polar regions की बात करें, वहां पे भी same है. ये किसकी बात हो रही है? These are talking about the tropical regions. So the things are different. That's why the things are different because I'm talking about the tropical regions or subtropical or tropical regions. But if I change the scenario, if I take the example of polar regions में क्या होगा? Things would change. In polar regions, in summer, ice melts. As ice would melt, this water will get mixed up with the river and it would further decrease the value of salinity. It would decrease the value of salinity. But at the same time, if I'm taking winters, in winters, there would be ice formation. And ice formation will do what? Ice जब भी form होगा, it would form without the salts. Ice formation हमेशा salts के बिना होता है. So what would happen? These areas would get frozen and it will expel salts in the river. Hence, or ocean, salts in the ocean or river, and hence it will make the surrounding area more saline. The polar regions की बात हो रही है, please understand. In polar regions, ice formation It would expel salts and expel these salts at the surrounding areas of the ocean, and this would mean that this would have more salinity because सारा salt कहाँ पर आ जाएगा यहाँ पे. Plus this is also cold in nature, which also gives it the chance of getting more saline. ठीक है? Clear everyone? Clear everyone? Okay, shall we write something on it? Good. I think all the C's are covered. Okay, write down. First, write about the factors. Factors affecting salinity of oceans. Start writing. Factors affecting salinity of the oceans. Factors affecting salinity of the oceans. On the top, write down. Write down the variation is influenced by. The variation is influenced by various factors. Write down the variation is influenced by various factors. The variation is influenced by various factors such as physical, climatic and geographical factors. Such as physical, climatic and geographical factors. Physical, climatic and geographical factors. Write down. Full stop. Processes such as evaporation, precipitation. Processes such as evaporation, precipitation, river runoff, melting of ice, and ice formation are the important factors. Along with it, temperature, ocean currents, wind patterns, and geographical setting all play important role in shaping salinity values. First, write down the first parameter I'm going to take is evaporation. The first one, which is evaporation. Write down. Evaporation plays major role. In increasing ocean salinity. It makes water bodies more saline. Right? Write down. Evaporation plays a major role in increasing ocean salinity in regions with high temperature, especially in subtropical regions. In regions with high temperature, especially in subtropical regions or subtropical zones between 20 and 30 degree latitude, intense sunlight causes large amount of water to evaporate. full stop, full stop. As a result, water vapor leaves. As a result, water vapor leaves the ocean surface, leaves the ocean surface, comma, dissolved salts remain behind, dissolved salts remain behind, thus increasing, thus increasing salinity of seawater, thus increasing salinity of sea water, thus increasing salinity of sea water, full stop. For example, Red Sea and Persian Gulf. We have done the examples of Red Sea and Persian Gulf. I don't think that you would have any problem with respect to it. So write down, Red Sea and Persian Gulf has some of the highest salinity values in the world due to extreme evaporation, due to extreme evaporation. Good evening, Shubham. Good evening. If you have any doubt, just let me know. Okay, write down. Red Sea and the Persian Gulf have highest salinity levels in the world due to extreme evaporation under hot desert climates. Under hot desert climates. Next लिखेंगे precipitation. Write down precipitation. How precipitation would affect this? देखिए, precipitation decreases the underline करेंगे decreases को. Precipitation decreases the salinity of ocean water. The salinity of ocean water. Full stop. When rain or snow falls into the ocean, when rain or snow falls into the ocean, comma, it adds water to the surface. It adds water to the surface, hence diluting the salts. Hence diluting the salts concentration. Dilute मतलब reduce करना. आप reduce भी लिख सकते हैं. Hence diluting the salt concentration. मतलब उसका इफेक्ट सॉल्ट का कंसंट्रेशन का बहुत कम हो जाएगा, मतलब इट्स गोइंग टू बी रिड्यूस्ड. नेक्स्ट राइट डाउन regions near the equator, comma, regions near the equator, comma, where heavy rainfall is common, where heavy rainfall is common, typically exhibit lower salinity levels, typically exhibit lower salinity levels as compared to drier areas, as compared to drier areas. For example, heavy and frequent rainfall near the equator. For example, heavy and frequent rainfall near the equator. एक एग्जाम्पल और लिखेंगे, Amazon basin coastal waters. Amazon basin coastal waters. Third factor, write down the third factor, river runoff. Write down the third factor, river runoff. River runoff we have done already. It is going to increase the what? Freshwater river will get discharged into any water body. It will further dilute the salt concentration. So क्या होगा? Salinity level decrease या increase? It will decrease. Write down, fresh water from rivers flowing into the oceans. Fresh water from the rivers flowing into the oceans. Fresh water from rivers flowing into the oceans also affects salinity. Also affects salinity. Full stop. River runoffs bring continuous supply. River runoff brings continuous supply of the fresh water into the coastal zones. Into the coastal zones. diluting the seawater and reducing its salt content. Diluting the seawater and reducing its salt content. Next example लिखेंगे atmospheric pressures and wells. How atmospheric pressures? As you know, when atmospheric pressure will be high, so there is less chances of the rainfall. So definitely atmospheric pressure belts play the important role. Because जब high pressure होगा, it will descend. The air will descend. The moment air will descend, it will not create any kind of cloud formation. And when there will be no cloud formation, there will be no rivers. There will be no rainfall happening. So high pressure is also one of the important factor, particularly atmospheric pressures. Write down atmospheric pressures and winds. Next parameter is atmospheric pressure and winds. देखिए atmospheric pressures and prevailing winds also have great impact on salinity. It also has great impacts on salinity of any area. It also has great impact on salinity of any area. Great impact on the salinity of an area. Write down. Subtropical high pressure belts experiencing anticyclonic conditions will have higher salinity. Next, second sub point of this only. Winds also influence salinity. By affecting evaporation and water movement. अगर strong winds है और अगर dry है, अगर wind dry है और strong है, तो it will further help in the evaporation process. Evaporation process होगा तो क्या होगा? Particular area का salinity increase करेगा. It will increase. Right? On the other hand, if you talk about different winds, for example, if I take a kind of a wind which is called as Peru wind, which is blowing near the south, in the western coast of the South America, it will further help the water to flow and do upwelling. Upwelling means the water will be coming from the deep side towards the surface, from the surface area to the surface area. It will bring the cold water above. Okay? So it further changes the salinity. Write down. Wind also derives surface waters, cause upwelling that brings deeper and often saltier water to the surface. Full stop. In regions like Arabian Sea, during monsoon season, strong winds cause significant evaporation. It causes significant evaporation, increasing salinity. Next, increasing salinity. Right? Okay, I'm repeating. What point I have to repeat? Just let me know. I'm repeating everything, okay? Write down. Winds also derive surface currents. And cause upwelling, a process that brings deeper, often saltier water to the surface. Full stop. In regions like Arabian Sea, during monsoon season, comma, strong winds cause significant evaporation. Strong winds cause significant evaporation, comma, increasing salinity. Full stop. Additionally, in areas of coastal upwelling, additionally, in areas of coastal upwelling near coast of Peru, winds bring deeper, saltier water to the surface layer, or saltier water to the surface. That's it. Now, what is another factor which can impact the evaporation or the salinity of the area, which is the ocean current, ocean currents. Simply जो आपके warm ocean currents हैं, which will blow as a surface layer. Warm ocean current will blow as a surface. मतलब you can see it on the surface, it would blow. But your cold ocean current will blow as a subsurface layer. Will blow as a subsurface layer. तो लिखिए warm and cold ocean currents. Oceanic currents heading डालेंगे, फिर लिखेंगे warm oceanic currents. Write down. Oceanic currents contribute to the redistribution of salinity. Oceanic currents contribute to the redistribution of salinity. अगर कहीं पे ज्यादा है, because of this what would happen, यहाँ पे कम हो जाएगा, कहीं पे ज्यादा हो जाएगा. Just like you rebalance the heat. Full stop. Currents can transport saltier water. Currents can transport saltier water from one region to another, comma, modifying the local salinity level. Modifying the local salinity level. For example, write down. For example, Gulf Stream. For example, Gulf Stream carries warm, saltier water. Carries warm, saltier water from tropical areas towards North Atlantic. Tropical areas towards North Atlantic, affecting salinity patterns. Affecting salinity patterns along its path. Affecting salinity patterns along its path. Right? If you have any doubt till now, just let me know. Rest of the factors I'll do. But before that, you just go through all what you have written right now and let me know if you're having a doubt. I'm giving 2 minutes for quick revision. All right. So let's move towards another parameter. Do you have any doubt? Can you please quickly repeat ocean currents? Okay. Yes. Line I have to repeat, or you want a conceptual clarity on that? Tell me exactly. Okay, line you want to repeat. Okay. Write down. The Gulf Stream carries warm, comma, saltier water. The Gulf Stream carries warm, comma, saltier water from tropical areas towards North Atlantic, comma, affecting the salinity patterns, affecting the salinity patterns, affecting the salinity patterns along its path, along its path. Done. Now next we are going to do is ice formation and melting. Let's do this. Ice formation and melting. Okay. Now I have already told you how ice formation and ice melting, they both are affecting it. Ice formation is increasing the salinity in the polar region because it is expelling the salts in the area. It is expelling the salts. On the other hand, the ice melting is decreasing the values of salinity in the area because it is it is creating huge volume of fresh water which is getting further mixed up with the ocean. Okay, so this is the reason. Now write down the processes of ice formation and melting. The processes of ice formation and melting strongly influence salinity. They strongly influence salinity. They both influence salinity. Strongly influence salinity, comma, particularly in polar regions. Full stop. When ice sea forms, salts are left behind. When ice sea forms, salts are left behind. Salts are left behind in the surrounding water, comma, leading to increasing local salinity. Leading to increasing local salinity. Conversely, when ice melts, comma, it releases fresh water. It releases fresh water into the oceans, comma, which lowers the salinity. Which lowers the salinity. Next factor, write down temperature. Next factor is temperature. Write down about temperature. Temperature indirectly impacts ocean salinity through influence on evaporation. Temperature indirectly impacts ocean salinity through its influence on evaporation and ice formation. आपका आइस मेल्टिंग और आइस फॉर्मेशन किसके बेसिस पे डिपेंडेंट है? टेम्परेचर के बेसिस पे. टेम्परेचर बहुत कम होगा तो आइस फॉर्मेशन होगा, टेम्परेचर ज्यादा होगा तो आइस मेल्टिंग. सो अल्टीमेटली हु इज द सोर्स फॉर दैट? टेम्परेचर. एंड टेम्परेचर का सोर्स क्या है? सन. Okay, temperature directly impacts ocean salinity through its influence on evaporation and ice formation. Full stop. In warm regions, high temperatures accelerate. In warm regions, high temperature accelerate evaporation. Accelerate evaporation. It accelerates evaporation. It accelerates evaporation, write down, comma, leading to saltier water. Leading to saltier water. Full stop. In colder regions, low temperatures promote. In colder regions, low temperatures promote formation of ice, comma, which leaves salt behind. Which leaves salt behind. The last factor that we are going to do is geographical location. Now, geographical location is also very prominent. Had these all been in a different places, right? Your location also matter, what location you are into. So, geographical location as another factor we have to explain. Write down. Geographical location is a fundamental factor in determining overall climate, temperature, and rainfall patterns, of the regions. Full stop. Areas at different latitudes. What did I tell you about equator, latitudinal variation? Like equator is having minimum. Equator is having what? Since our insolation is more, still the salinity value is less. Why? Because along with the temperature which is there, which is increased over here, we are also having good amount of precipitation. Right? So write down geographical values के अंदर, geographical location के अंदर write down areas at different latitudes experience varying amount of sunlight. Where is that slide? Where I have explained you. Have varying amount of sunlight, and this will further. Just look at the board. Here I have explained you. Only that point I am repeating. The one I have explained you initially. Areas at different latitude experience varying amount of sunlight and precipitation, leading to differences in salinity. You call this as latitudinal variation. We call this as latitudinal variation. Okay. Now this part which I have to, you have to write. Okay, write down. Regional variation in salinity. Only the seas we will consider certain oceanic. What we will take the water bodies and then we'll take the sea. For example, if I've discussed about the Red Sea and Persian Gulf, so you have to write which one is having more salinity. Although they are having the highest salinity, but between them also, which is having higher than the other, we have to explain. Okay. So write down first regional variation in salinity. The first ocean we are going to take is Atlantic. First we'll take Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and then we'll take the water bodies. This Persian Gulf or Red Sea will take that. First write down Atlantic Ocean. Write down Atlantic Ocean. Atlantic Ocean generally exhibits the highest salinity amongst all world's oceans. Highest salinity amongst all world's oceans. Full stop. As the particular place often exceeds 37 ppt. That means they are having values more than 37 or 37. They often exceeds 37 ppt. Write down the reasons. High evaporation, definitely. High evaporation rates. Relatively low precipitation, yes. High evaporation rates, low precipitation rates, and limited freshwater inflow. Compared to others. But Mediterranean Sea connected to Atlantic also has highly extreme. Mediterranean Sea, also connected to Atlantic, also has high salinity value और extremely high salinity. ब्रैकेट में लिखेंगे 38 to 39 ppt, 38 put hyphen then 39 ppt due to restricted water exchange, due to restricted water exchange with Atlantic and intense evaporation, intense evaporation. बट अब अटलांटिक में क्या आपके पास सिर्फ यही आता है? नहीं. सिंस वी आर हैविंग, देखिए हाउ ज्योग्राफिकल लोकेशंस इम्पैक्ट दिस. नाउ इन Atlantic Ocean I am taking the two cases. I am taking the example of Mediterranean Sea, which is not having much interaction with the Atlantic Ocean. Therefore, the values of Mediterranean Sea is salinity value is high, which is 39 ppm, right? And there is less inflow of discharge of water, right? So the point is, in the same case, I am taking Baltic Sea, I am taking North Sea. All of them are having the salinity value very less, very less. Why? As compared to this, दोनों ही part Atlantic Ocean का. But the point is, in the Baltic Sea, at first place it is located at the higher latitudes, where evaporation is less, precipitation is better, and in Baltic Sea we are also having the inflow of the rivers, influx of the rivers happening over. So definitely salinity value will be decreased. But in Mediterranean Sea, latitudinal variation is there, subtropical regions पे आ गया है, और यहाँ पर क्या है, आपका evaporation होगा, moderate precipitation, or there is no interaction with the Atlantic Ocean. So therefore they both are in this area only, Atlantic Ocean only, but how they differ in their values, that we can see clearly. Okay, write down. However, areas near mouth of major rivers like Amazon and Congo, however, areas near the mouth of major rivers like Amazon and Congo experiences noticeable reduction in salinity, due to large volume of water, discharging into the oceans. Full stop. Baltic Sea, Northern Europe also shows very low salinity levels because of limited evaporation, and extensive river runoff, right? Extensive river runoff. Next, we are going to write about Pacific. Pacific, लिखिए, write down the heading Pacific Ocean. All this I have explained to you, right? Conceptual clarity के लिए, just so somebody who is joining the lecture just now can see the recorded lecture and see initial part of the video where I have explained everything with respect to why Pacific Oceans are having lesser saline values, lesser salinity levels as compared to Atlantic Oceans. Okay. Now, Pacific Ocean heading डालेंगे. It is largest and deepest ocean basin. It is largest and deepest ocean basin. Generally having lower salinity than Atlantic. Salinity value ranges from 33 to 36 ppt. 33 to 36 ppt is their salinity value. This is largely because of greater overall precipitation. This is largely because of, underline करेंगे, greater overall precipitation, presence of warm, moist air masses, presence of warm, moist air masses, and substantial river inflow like Mekong and Columbia rivers. Next come to Indian Ocean. Indian Oceans. Indian Ocean shows a complex salinity distribution patterns. It shows a complex salinity distribution patterns. Full stop. The northern parts, especially Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, especially the northern part, that is Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, experience sharp contrast. Full stop. Arabian Sea has high salinity, around 37 ppt, while Bay of Bengal has lower salinity. While Bay of Bengal has lower salinity, which is between 32 to 34 ppt, because of enormous water discharge, fresh water discharge from rivers like Ganga, Brahmaputra, Godavari, Krishna, etc. Combined with heavy monsoon rains. Right? That's all for today. But for the marginal seas which are left, so you have to write for the marginal seas. Write more about Red Sea. Now, since I have given all the explanation of Red Sea and Persian Gulf, so write about Red Sea, Persian Gulf, and arrange them also. What would be their value? What is the reason for their high values? What is the reason for Black Sea having low values of salinity? What is the reason of Mediterranean Sea having a again high value? Right? That is what you have to do. All the seas you will take and try to understand why the values are more or less. These are the marginal seas. You will categorize them under the marginal seas and why it differs. Okay. Okay, write down some assessment questions, please. Write down. Take down question number 1. First, you have to write the values and do it in a rough format. You have to write something on that. I'll give you full dictation on this tomorrow. But apart from that, the questions that you have to attempt, first write down, why is the salinity lower at the equator? Write down the question, why is the salinity lower at the equator? Why is the salinity lower at the equator as compared to tropics, despite high evaporation rates? Write down second question. How does the horizontal distribution of salinity vary, vary between Atlantic and Pacific Ocean? All right. So this is a question I'm repeating again. How does the horizontal distribution of salinity vary between Atlantic and specific question. These are 2 assessment questions that you have to do. Try to write them and structure them in a way I have told you. Intro, body, conclusion, and also do not forget to write and include examples wherever needed, right? And आपको you have to also make diagrams. ठीक है, रफ में ही बनाएंगे. See, if you are doing geography option, taken geography option now, by now you should have a habit of drawing the maps. ठीक है, and please try to read these areas also in detail. आप एक map ले लीजिए और ये सारा area अगर आप precipitation values भी देखें, then also you have to go to the geography of these areas. And this now it has become very important. आजकल तो the state of Hormuz has become so important that I'm expecting a question from there. Okay, so do not forget, state of Hormuz पे भी आप कुछ देख सकते हैं and write down on this. All right, thank you so much, class. We'll meet you in the next class now. Thank you so much. Anything else, online students? Ma'am, dictating fast because she's preparing. Okay, no, Ashu, that is not the case. That is not the case. All right, I'll try to do this. Sure, sure. No problem. Have you missed out something? And that is good for you. Watch the recorded lecture. कोई doubt हो तो पूछना. Okay, I'll take care in the next class about this thing. Okay. Thank you so much.